well, I always wanted to be a doctor when I was in high school, but I actually didn't do many sciences. I kind of did a lot of arts and drama and things like that. But I always knew in the back of my mind I wanted to do medicine. And then I did the first year health science and I got into second year med school. So did all that. It's a 6-year degree at Auckland University and I graduated in 2012. And I worked as a junior doctor for a bit and then I stepped up and now I'm a locum surgical registrar. So it's a long word, but it's a fancy word. It's a fancy way of saying I do surgery and I travel around a lot and I can pick the hours that I want and where I want to work, and it's really flexible, really good money, lots of fun. Mainly you get to travel and have fun, yeah. This is going to sound so cheesy, but I think most doctors say it because it's really true. But I wanted to help people, and I always liked a job where it's kind of like a really giving job, I guess. And I like the idea of making people better and working through problems with people, really intimate problems with people as well. You get to work really closely with patients. So I think it's just, yeah, it was about that connection with people. So I travel around at the moment and I do a lot of surgery. So I'm a registrar. It's not like a junior doctor and it's not a boss yet. It's somewhere in the middle. And I help out in operations, and I can do operations on my own, not big scale ones, but I can do minor operations on my own. I clerk patients in and yeah, travel and do that. It's lots of fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So in surgery there's a whole range of specialties you can do, and I'm particularly interested in ear, nose and throat surgery. It's really quite delicate, dainty surgery, and I quite like art, and I did art all through high school, and so I quite like the finesse and the fine detail of it. And I like surgery because it's really hands-on. So it's a really good occupation, I think. Other surgeons are going to be like, no, my surgery is better. But I really like ear, nose and throat surgery, yeah, for that reason.
Cool.
So being a locum doctor is kind of like a contract worker. You get to, jobs will, doctors are not always well, or they've got to go on leave, or they're sick. And so when they go, they offer the position. And if it's a position that I can fill, if it, for example, surgery, I'll be like, I can do it. And I get to pick where I want to work and when I want to work, and I get to travel to the places. So you get to travel to some really cool locations that I've never been to before. And it's, not that money is all about it, but I mean, not that money is a massive thing, but it's really well paid. So it's flexible and you get to travel and it's a lot of fun. It's not even going to sound that exotic anymore now that you say it, but some of the places I've traveled to, just mainly around Australia, and so I'd never been to Western Australia before, and it's really cool on that side of the country. So I've done a bit of work down there, and it's more so locum workers in rural areas or areas where they find it hard to get doctors in. So you get to go to some pretty out there, unique locations. So I had a boyfriend all through med school actually, but then when I finished med school, we were two really different people. I started med school when I was 17 and I came out in my mid-20s, and you become a different person. And then after that I went straight into full-time work in Auckland, and I spent the last 7 years just working full-time and traveling a bit in between, but mainly preoccupied with career and things like that. And so it's hard because if you meet people there in the hospital or their patients, and that's illegal. It's really hard to date, I think, when you're a doctor, and especially when you're trying to do surgery. That's one of the busiest specialties, so it's hard to get out of the hospital, really. I have not seen a full season of The Bachelor, but I've seen bits and pieces of different bachelorettes from different countries. I mean, thank goodness, but I mean, we're so different to the American one, as at the end they have a proposal, and so you have to kind of get married. But here it's more just like a commitment, which is good. Is it? Yeah. Here it's not a proposal. But the Australian one was really funny, I think. I saw bits of it. I don't know if it prepared me or not. I kind of didn't want to look at hers because I wanted this to be an authentically me journey. And so I just wanted to do things and not be influenced by other people or how they did things. Yeah. So I kind of didn't really look at it until after. I was really nervous.
Yeah, can you run us through the emotions?
Yeah. When I first got the call to say I was going to be the Bachelorette, I was super excited, and I thought it was a huge honor, and you know, it's the first time a female's taking the lead, and I was like, yes, yes. But then the nerves kick in when you're like, hey, wait, oh, now I've got to do this, it's happening. And you know, on the first night, all the boys come, and I remember feeling so nervous, just as nervous as them. We were like equally nervous. And then your nerves settle down and you get into the sort of rhythm of things, and in the end we're all just trying to find someone and find connections, and then it gets easier. But I remember at the beginning I was really nervous. Yeah, I mean, my culture is so important to me. All my cultures, you know, I come from a really diverse background, and they all make me who I am. And I think it was such a testament to Warner Brothers and to TVNZ and to New Zealand in general that they chose me to be New Zealand's first Bachelorette. And I think it's also really representative of what our country might look like now as well, just, you know, a diverse population, hopefully. And that's what I hoped to represent, really, you know, the many faces of a New Zealander, of what a New Zealander might look like. And so I just thought it was very current and very relevant. And I remember reading, I was never going to apply initially to the Bachelorette, someone shoulder tapped me, but when I was reading, when it first came out, someone wrote an article and they said, the Bachelorette's coming and I really hope it's like a woke woman of substance. And in my mind I was like, yes, that's what it needs to be. I'm not being like, oh, I'm such a woke woman of substance, but it's cool that they branched out and got a woman of colour, and it's cool that they branched out and got someone who has done things, I don't know, you know, who's not necessarily like a reality stereotype. The best thing about being the Bachelorette, it was definitely, I guess I was in this bubble, and I was in this Auckland bubble and working, and I'd only meet certain types of people. It was really cool for me to meet so many amazing guys, because they really are all just so nice, from all different parts of New Zealand and all different walks of life, and just to know that we have, you know, it kind of gives you hope, like, yes, there are lots of great guys in New Zealand, you know. The worst thing about being the Bachelorette would definitely be, I thought it would be easier dating. And, you know, when you think of it, you're like, oh, that'll be fun. But you're really handling people's emotions, and you have to be really careful with that. You know, you're the reason for their disappointment if you let them go. You're the reason they're unhappy, and that can be hard. Well, it was hard for me to deal with a little bit at times. You know, you feel bad for people and you don't want to make people upset, and so I think handling people's emotions was the most difficult part. So in my family, I have my mum and my dad. My dad is Samoan, my mum's Trinidadian, like in a nutshell. They're mixed as well, but in a nutshell. And my dad was a teacher for many, many years at Mags, and he's retired now. My mum is an associate professor at AUT, and I have a younger brother. He studied law, but he's working with refugees at the moment. And my sister, she just graduated with her master's in sociology and education, and she's in New York. So we're all somewhat into, we're all pretty humanitarian and into social justice issues, and we kind of sound like very just like serious, but we're not. They're super cool. We grew up in West Auckland, and you would have seen my brother on the show, and my sister. Yeah, they're all just really chill, but they strongly believe in what they believe in, if that makes sense. Baseline, I have pretty humanitarian, somewhat liberal values, and you know, I come from a really diverse, both ethnically and in terms of religion and in terms of sexuality and lots of things. I come from a really diverse background, so I think we're pretty open-minded family, I'd like to think. I just tell people my last names because that's easier. So the Nakhid is my mum's granddad is Lebanese, but she's Trinidadian. They were born, like, he moved to Trinidad, and then the rest of them were born in Trinidad. But she's also, you know, African and Spanish and something else. Sorry, Mum, I've forgotten. She's many things. Yeah. And my dad is Samoan German, and that's a Schuster. I love being mixed. I love it. I love to say I oh, are you that? So am I, you know? And I love to be part of lots of people's families. And I think that's probably just the way of the future, hopefully, if more people, you know, integrate and meet each other, and that's just what's going to happen. But I'm really proud, even though people might not think I look like a stereotypical X or look like this kind of culture, I'm really proud to be all my cultures, and I'm really proud to be mixed, yeah. So my parents' reaction when I told them that I was going to be the Bachelorette, they were like, oh, Lesina. They did that, you know, like, oh, what have you got yourself into this time? But after I talked them through it and what it involved, because they actually didn't know what it, like the whole Bachelor concept, they had no idea about it. They trusted me. They said, we trust you to make the right decision and to do yourself justice and to just be yourself, really. And that was nice. They were really supportive. My brother was like, I don't have to be on it, do I? And I was like, yes, you are. Yes, you do. And he was on the first episode. And my sister was just really supportive. They were all really happy for me because they knew that this is something that I had thought about and I wouldn't take it, you know, I didn't take it lightly, and something that I wanted to do. I mean, a lot of people were like, oh, she's an actress, like she can act her way through it. But they're really different, acting and reality television. With acting, you're a character and you're definitely, you know, going by a script and it's very planned. This is just, you're completely yourself. And there's no script and no one's telling you what to do, and you just have to be genuinely you for this to be even a valid experience. And so I wouldn't have wanted to act my way through it or do anything. Not that you can anyways, you know, your reaction is your reaction in the end of the day. So it was just completely different to anything I've ever done before. And it's also really, you expose yourself a lot. You become really vulnerable because you're not, you know, you may feel something and your usage are kind of just processing it in your mind. But in this, they're like, how do you feel? Well, why do you feel that? And you have to give yourself a lot to the camera, and you have to give yourself, you have to open up a lot. And so that's not something that I've ever done before. So it was different. It was definitely a very exposing process, yeah. My advice to younger family that are about to date, I would say give people time, because, you know, it's really easy to go off your first impressions and what you think of people, but I was given in this situation, you're given the opportunity to spend time with people that maybe you usually be like, oh, they're not my usual type, and people surprise you and they're really different to what you first thought, and so get to know people, I would say, because you never know what can happen. Yeah. I definitely was prepared for a response of shock and maybe, you know, negativity towards the fact that I'm not what people might have thought the typical Bachelorette would have looked like. But then a lot of people thought that I was completely appropriate too. And so, you know, there's always two sides of a fence, and there's going to be people that look at race like it should be a thing, and it really shouldn't be a thing, you know. And if people have commented negatively throughout the show and that's their focus, I just ignore that, because that's so irrelevant. You know, it's about the person, and it maybe it's about your values, and of course your ethnic background and your family play a part, but it shouldn't be like the color of your skin or anything like that. So I just honestly ignored that kind of stuff. It really didn't impact me, because the kind of people that think that way aren't the kind of people whose opinions would matter to me. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a huge honor that I was given this position, and because I know that I do represent amongst all my different ethnicities, especially young Pasifika women, and I think it's nice for there to be Pasifika representation on such a huge scale like this as well, and not just like the funny best friend or the sidekick as we're often portrayed. I think being like the hero in the lead role that is amazing, you know? Yeah. Top 5. Whew. Well, I just have some basic traits that I liked, and I don't know have we already met my dad by this stage? Okay. So you've met my dad, and he's so sweet and nice, and my mum's like really full on. Can I say that? And my dad is just very self-assured and kind and gentle and patient, and those were the basic qualities that I was looking for in someone. The only hard deal breaker I would say is if someone really didn't, like if kids was an absolute no, because I want kids and I want a family at some stage, so that'd be obviously hard. But some turn-offs, I guess, someone who's really close-minded. The process of dating on the show versus real life, on the show you're kind of like speed dating in a way, because you've got so many guys in a short amount of time, and in real life you wouldn't really do that. I'm sure maybe some people do. But I wouldn't really do that in real life. And so you're kind of getting to know a lot of people in a short amount of time. So for me, I was just quick firing questions, and you would have seen that on the show. I was like the question assassin. But do you know what's funny? I actually am like that in real life too. I do ask a lot of questions. So, but in this situation it was amplified because I'm like, I need to know this, I need to know this. I've got a short amount of time. So those kinds of things were magnified. But also, do you know what is a funny big difference? In real life, you're not, you know, paragliding and whatever, doing all these like crazy things like you would on the show. So our dates were pretty up there. And I guess in real life you'd just go for dinner, wouldn't you? But here you're like going for dinner in Argentina in the middle of a farm, and it's amazing. Yeah. The whole process makes you learn so much more about these people, because they have to open up just as much as I'm opening up. They have to open up as well, and they did. And they are put in situations that they normally wouldn't be put in, and some people might not be comfortable, and it's nice to see what they're like under pressure, what they're like in a setting that's outside the comfort zone. So you do get to see different sides of guys that, and in a shorter time period than you would in real life, which is good, I think, you know, given the time frame we had. My advice to young girls who are starting to date, or who are, you know, exploring romantic relationships with people, I would just say, go with your gut, don't feel pressured, and do what makes you happy. I think those are the main things that you have to focus on. I think there's a lot of pressure on us just as women in general to be with certain kinds of guys or act a certain way in relationships. And I just think do what authentically makes you happy, and don't feel, you know, there is no pressure. Well, there is societal pressure, but don't ignore the pressure a little bit and do what makes you happy. So my advice to other bachelorettes, to future bachelorettes, would be use the whole process wisely. You've got time, you've got a certain amount of time, and you've got a certain amount of guys. Use the whole process to find out about yourself, to learn about yourself, to be open and willing to change as well, and work on things that, you know, through this process, I was like, I can't, oh my gosh, I always do that. This is probably why I'm single, you know? Like I'd do things and I'd be like, oh my, this is so bad. This is why I'm single. Work on those things. You've got the opportunity, you know, and you'll never get an opportunity like this again. So it's funny because at the beginning I saw a lot of kind of public backlash, as you would say, about the bachelors, just people being like they're not very diverse. You know, there were a few Pacific Islanders, probably less than I thought there might be. But it's not even that. There were a few Pacific Islanders on there. There weren't that many any other ethnicity. Like, and whether that's because they didn't apply, it wouldn't be something that they usually do. I have no idea. But there wasn't any other sort of like Asian or African or any other kind of continent really on there, which is, I'm not sure why that was. Do you know what? There is a lot of diversity in those personalities, and they were really different. Each guy was actually really different, and so again, maybe should other ethnicities have been represented probably just as a reflection of the numbers that they make up in our New Zealand population anyways, and they weren't represented in that way. But I don't know, can I honestly say I don't know what happened there? Maybe they just didn't apply. I really don't know. I was extremely happy with my decision, and and I'm very committed to seeing how this plays out. There were so many reasons in our political climate in general why I wanted to do this as well, and I was like, yes, female. For once there's a female in the driver's seat. Like, we've done 3 bachelors, and how come it's taken this long to have a bachelorette? And 2, I'm a woman of colour as well, so a further minority. And I just thought, how many walls is this breaking down right now, you know? And do you know what I also kind of thought? I might have to be the scapegoat, and that's fine. I feel like I'm strong enough, I'm old enough to deal with all the backlash that may come with this, but it makes it a little bit easier for the next person, the next woman of colour, and makes it a little bit easier for the next person after that. And so I was like, yes, you know? I've given this to a lot of girls that kind of people reach out on social media and things like that already. And I say do what makes you happy, and you can do it all. That's what I think. I think, you know, people are like, oh, she's a doctor, but she shouldn't be like an actress, or she shouldn't be modeling in a bikini because she's a doctor. I'm like, why? Yeah, I can do all the things that make me happy as long as it's not hurting anyone else, and I can do it all. And I'm a really big advocate of, you know that she can do both. I like that. You can be as many things as you want to be, and don't let people make you feel like you can't kind of like reach for the stars. It's so cheesy, but do you know what I mean? Don't let people think that you can't achieve whatever you want to achieve. You can.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.